Welcome to your iconic image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today, my guest is Jamey Roots, who is the president of the Houston Texans football team, as well as the author of the best-selling book, The Winning Game Plan. Welcome, Jamey.
Oh, it's great to be with you.
So I want to ask you, how do we build a successful brand from nothing? Because it's worth noting that you have done this not just once, but twice. You did it with the Columbus Crew, and then you did it again with the Houston Texans. So how do we do that?
Well, the first thing is to understand what a brand really is. I mean, when people think about brands, they typically they think about the packaging, right? The logo. The logo is just a representative of all of the interactions, the sum of the gut interactions that you have with an organization. And when you have outstanding packaging but a bad product, nothing kills it quicker. The same thing with advertising. Nothing kills a bad product faster than great advertising. So the brand is a promise of delivery of performance at a good value for a consumer. I remember listening to Howard Schultz from Starbucks, who said, brands are built from the inside out. So it's what your organization is on the inside, the products that you make, the way that you serve your customers. And when you think about the word customer, it's about a customized experience. This is for me. This fits me. And so to the extent that you understand what your consumer is looking for and you provide it better than anybody else in the world, your brand will be great. Now, along the way, you want to artistically present it in a way like you think about Apple. Apple has great products, but I just sent around to our staff. I got an Apple Watch. I'm always just amazed at their packaging. I mean, their packaging is spectacular. So when you put those two things, and I call that a grace note, you know, it's not the core, but it's that little something extra that just really makes you feel special. This was made for me, and this is my brand, and I'm loyal to this company, this product. I think that's really what branding is all about.
So then how do you do that when you're starting from nothing?
First thing is to understand what your consumer is looking for, right? What are the things that they seek from you? And you're looking for, in terms of brand strength, you want two things: differentiation and relevance. You know, to be different in a way that matters to people. You know, so if you can be differentiated and relevant, you own a unique place in the consumer's mind. And as long as you perform consistently, that's really where word of mouth advertising, which is the most powerful, having recommendations from others that you tell two friends, then they tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. And that's really how great brands are built. John Paul DeJoria, who people don't know his name, but they do know Paul Mitchell hair care products. Mm-hmm. And they do know Patron Tequila, which I don't know that he created it, but I think he resurrected the brand. Mm-hmm. He was visiting at an event here in Houston. He said, I never want to be in the sales business. I want to be in the reorder business. You want your product to be pulled towards your consumer. And that's because you've done it in a way that matters and you're different than the other things that are out there. And you own that unique position that is so incredibly valuable.
Mm. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because that was one of the most powerful things that was ever asked of me. A gentleman said to me, what business are you in? And my initial answer was photography. He said, no, that's what you do. What business are you in? And I think when you can hit the core of that, that's what can differentiate you. And then you have no competition because you're not in the same business.
That's right. And it's all about creating the basis of competition. And I think about the Houston Texans. Are we in the football business? I guess in some ways we are. We play football games, but we're really in the connection business. You know, Houston's the most diverse city in America, and nothing brings us together like the game of football. It's about rituals and traditions and bonding time and moms and dads and brothers and sons. And so when we started, tailgating was never allowed here in Houston. And so it was a passion for me. I was like, we have to build the greatest tailgating culture on the planet. So for 30 months, we told our fans, you're the best tailgaters in the world, even though it never happened here. And on from day one, this 30,000, person festival atmosphere was created out in front. And if you didn't even want to come to the game, you had to be at the tailgate, because we only do this 10 times a year. And when you think about differentiation, That's really that's one of the things that makes football different than baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer. You don't tailgate for those events. You spend an entire day. We wanted our fans to take each Sunday at home and circle it and put a strike through it. I'm off the radar. This is my Sunday vacation. And that's the way it's turned out for the last 20 years. We've sold out every game we've ever played. We have a wait list of 30,000. And Houston was never like that before. So it's really been quite magical.
That's amazing. So then how important would you say is fan participation in building a brand?
Absolutely. You're built for the fans, right? You're built for your customers. And so to the extent you can own the voice of the customer and understand and track over time what they're looking for, whether that's making improvements to what you're providing to them, or the real magic is when you're providing something in addition that they trust you for this, or they try you for something else. I call it the 3 R's. The loyalty, the brand, the connection gives you retention. People will stay with you longer, and they'll fight to stay with you. You get referrals. So rather than having to spend money on advertising, there are people out there, your brand ambassadors, telling your story, which is much more persuasive than an advertisement. Mm-hmm. And then the third R is related sales. You did this really well for me, so I assume that this next thing that you bring out, Apple's another great example. Disney's a great example. Mm-hmm. Great brand, Starbucks. When Starbucks comes out with something else, I'm going to try it because I'm a loyal Starbucks patron, and I assume that they respect me enough. They wouldn't put something out here that wasn't exceptional.
So then what would you say is the difference between satisfaction and loyalty? Like, let's say you go to Starbucks and you get the drink.
Well, I'll tell you, it relates to my marriage. My wife's name's Melissa, right? And so we've been married for 21 years. And so if my goal was to satisfy her, then she would stay with me as long as there's not a better option. That's what satisfaction gets you. Mm-hmm. Loyalty, people fight to stay with you. When the times are hard, when you're getting in fights, when the kids aren't behaving, you work to stay together because you're loyal to each other. That's the kind, that's 9 and 10 out of 10, not 7 or 6 out of 10. So, and you think about the metrics you can use, the net promoter score, which is something that we've used for the last 20 years here. You want to make sure you have a whole lot more people that are having that exceptional experience than people that are having kind of an average experience. And when you do, your brand is going to grow. Your mm-hmm. business is going to grow. And when you have a negative net promoter score, you're dying.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you brought up the fact that the Texans have sold out every game in franchise history, which is amazing in itself. And I wanted to quote your book. You said, "We want to deliver an experience, a service level, and a customer relationship that would transcend team performance. We want to create raving fans." So how did you go about doing that?
Well, my background is consumer products, kind of traditional business. And, you talk about loyalty. Let me tell you, nobody gets up in the morning and gets all jacked up about delivering loyalty. But when you turn it into creating raving fans, that's exciting. It's not about fans of the team, and it's not about fans of the game. It's about raving fans, the fans that will go out and tell other people about how exceptional this experience is. So that's the measure. A raving fan must go out and tell someone else how great it was, or tell us, send me a note. I love celebrating those notes. And then the create was important because it doesn't just happen. It takes intentional effort. You have to reach out. You have to say to someone, "Hey, how is this going? How can we do this better? Hey, it looks like you're not having a great time. What can I do to help you?" Mm-hmm. It takes personal effort to make it happen. And I just think it was a mindset that was transformational, because people do love football. They love to come to football games. And when you win, they'll come. And if you lose, they won't come. But if they feel like you are out there busting your tail to create an experience that truly is memorable, that has a lasting impression, that creates a raving fan, they're going to fight to stay with you. Whether you win or lose, they're going to be there.
So what are some of the things that, as a franchise, you have done to create memorable experiences?
Yeah, so we're, first of all, we had to study and understand what the expectations of our fans were. So for the first 30 months, we did tons of focus groups trying to get an idea of what does a Houston football fan look for. One of the key things we did was the name of the team, the Texans. When I first came here to Houston, I was so struck. It was rodeo weekend, and I'm in my corporate apartment. Every advertisement, it had a company that it was promoting, but it was about Texas. And I thought about it. I said, really, no, nobody has an identity with their state like Texas. I was from Ohio. Nobody talks about Ohioans. I was from Georgia, Georgians. Now, maybe New Yorkers,
Right.
whether that's good or bad, who knows, might be
Mm-hmm.
pejorative. But when you think about Texans, I mean, that is an iconic imagery. And so the only challenge was, how do you represent it? And that was really very difficult. And we came up with this bull that is the spirit of the bull, and the star in the bullhead is the 5 points that people said over and over and over about what it meant to be a Texan. It's about pride, courage, strength, tradition, and independence. And that's the core of our brand. And we tried to translate that imagery. Okay, how can we operate day to day in a manner that is consistent with Texas, that is authentically NFL? And so we just started piecing these things in. The first year was pretty good. The second year was really great. We started this, it used to be game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4. We said, that's not good enough. Every game is going to have a different feel, going to have a different celebration, whether it's Spirit of Service, where we're celebrating the military, or Pink Ribbon Day, where we're celebrating cancer survivors, or Liberty Whiteout, which is about first responders, or Battle Red Day, where we all wear red. And, you're not playing 53 today, you're playing 71,500. So we just started piecing in, and each year we would throw in a few more traditions and then keep the old. If it didn't work, we'll throw it away after a couple of years. And then now, 20 years later, it's this thing it's this Christmas tree that's got decorations all over it. It's so rich, and just, why would anybody walk away from that?
What's one of your favorite things that you do?
Battle Red Day is my favorite. I mean, it was really where I knew we had Houston. We had an interception return, and I have the photo of it on my wall. It's our first Battle Red Day. We're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, an interception return for a touchdown, and Petey Fagans jumps up on the field wall, and you see the fans. They're just eating it up. They're just like, my gosh, I love Battle Red Day. And people look forward all year to Battle Red Day, among the other events. We have our Fan Appreciation Day, which we started that trend in sports, where we spend the entire game giving away, tens of thousands of dollars in prizes just to say thank you. For how easy is it to say thank you, but how often do people truly say thank you and mean it, right? Mm-hmm. So we've just tried to, make it more than just coming to a football game.
I know you also talked about in your book people that weren't even Texans fans that you kind of converted along the way. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's the connection that you have with us. It's so different. I mean, we talked about brands, we talked about differentiation, and it's about being different. We're a big deal, but we are hometown humble friendly. It is a friendly, and Houston, it's like Houston. Houston, I mean, it's probably the friendliest city in the world. I mean, it's all about friendship. You think about the word Texas. The Spanish word for Texas is Tejas, and it comes from an Indian word that means friendship. And no city in Texas embraces that spirit, that ethos of Tejas like the city of Houston. And this franchise has embraced that as well. And so you don't just because you are a major sports brand, you don't have to act like it. We want to invite everybody. It's not for just the elite. We want anybody who wants to be part of what we're doing. You're welcome. And if it's not today, we're going to be here for a long time. You can come 10 years from now. We're always welcoming people onto the bandwagon.
Love it. Love the accessibility. You also talked about repeating your message. And once again, I'm going to quote you. You said, by the time you've gotten sick and tired of saying the same thing, your team, or I'm also going to say your followers or fans, are just beginning to understand what you mean and how they can apply it. Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about that.
It's true. I mean, and it speaks to the PRAISE and leader, that authenticity of the leader. The leader is so dialed into what we're doing. I get it really quickly, but I've got a whole lot of people that they have a lot of things going on in their lives. They're not as dialed in as I am. And so it's important that I'm regularly having these messages, whether what I'm saying, what I'm writing, the way we're acting, the activities we're going through. All of them have this deep meaning to them to reinforce the values of our organization as expressed in the habits that are most important to us. So it does take a long time for those messages. And you've got to have a consistency in your teammates. having the same people, not in the same positions, but trying to grow people within the organization so that the culture really starts to take hold. And, like you said, it's 20 years, and I think people are just finally figuring out what it is we're all about. So it does take a long time, and it does take intentional effort, and you do have to over communicate anything that's important.
So how long do you think it took before the fans realized what the message was?
We had this one year, we finally made the playoffs. I think we were transformed. Year over year, our fan base grew. We were already selling out every game. It grew by literally 50%. And it was because those people on the outside that were a little skeptical that we were going to be something special, they finally took the leap and became part of it. And at that point, the thing was off to the races. Go from 0 to a 30,000 person wait list. And it's just really a very special thing. So it took us about, I would say, 10 years to fully take hold.
Mm. And I have to ask you too, how long from its inception before you launched this brand?
Yeah, so we actually launched the brand along the way. Our first season, we started in August of 2002. We began working on it in January of 2000. So it was about 30 months. And if I could have had 50 months, I would have taken it. There's just so much to get accomplished when you're launching a professional sports franchise, even in the National Football League, which has such great resources and has such great heritage. It takes a long time to put it together. All of your ticket holders and your suite holders and putting in place the sponsors and making sure you're maximizing value and getting the right relationships that will stay with you for the long term. Building a stadium, which is a wonderful, NRG Stadium's a wonderful place to see a football game. And then energizing the fans, getting them to really embrace, okay, this is what we're all about. And you can't overwhelm them. You put a few things out there, battle red, deep steel blue, liberty white. Okay, great. Tailgating, best tailgating in the NFL. Okay, I got it. The bullpen, where all the crazy fans are. Okay. And then let it breathe. And then let's put something else in. And then something else in. And that's the notion I mentioned in the book, the Get Better mentality. I mean, we are always thinking about what's new, what's next, what's better. And the concept of R&D, ripping off and doing better, going throughout the National Football League and all of sports, saying, okay, that's an interesting idea right there. How might we transform it and own it and repackage it and make it part of what we do? Because if sports fans embrace it over here, it's got a shot over here, and we'll give it a try. And if it doesn't work, we throw it away. We start with something else, which is why this industry is so great for me, because I just have this creative bone. I can never sit still. I always want to be getting better, and it gives you this canvas that it's an etch a sketch. If it doesn't work, you can just etch a sketch it and say, we never did that. Let's move on to the next one.
So 2 questions. The first one is, when you were getting ready to launch this brand, did you have a deadline? Or did you have things in place and then, okay, now we're ready? Which came first?
Self-imposed deadline that required us to go ahead and schedule some events for the launch of the name. And we want to do the name and the logo and the brand identity package all together. The next year, we were going to do the uniforms. And it was interesting. We got to the point where I needed to pull the plug. I mean, it was just, we could not figure out what the identity was going to be for Texans. And I was visiting with Bob McNair, who's passed away, but he's our founder. And I said, Bob, it's just not working. We can't find anything that the fans really resonates with them as far as what it means to be a Texan. And he said, well, how are you testing it? I said, we're doing focus groups. Because we'll invite me to that next, what do you call it? Focus groups. Invite me to that next focus group. And it was the first time we had the kind of bullhead. It was really kind of rudimentary. But he's sitting behind the glass with his wife, Janice. And we pull it open. You see the rough kind of bullhead, and it actually was Texas A&M colors and looked like a Texas Longhorn. And the place went berserk. That is perfect. That is. He turns to me and he says, "This marketing stuff's not that hard."
You also touched on it before. This was my second question about leveling up. And you said, what got you here won't get you there. So how do you continue to level up?
Well, maybe the most important part is letting go of what you're currently doing. And I talk about it with my folks from time to time when they're asking me about, I want to take a leap, I want to do something different, I want to take on more responsibilities. I said, great. First, you have to create capacity. Take some things that you really love doing and put them on to somebody else. Teach them how to do it so that I know you've got the ability, the bandwidth to be able to take it on. And let's give it a few months. Let's give it 6 months so we can visit it again. Usually they'll come back and they'll say, oh, great. I've got Billy. He's up to speed, right? I'm ready to take it on. And then you give them the opportunity to learn something new.
Mm. You also...
But that's the hardest thing is let go of the things that are comfortable, that you really love doing. But if you can't move forward.
Very, very true. And it is difficult to let go. You also talked about the fact that stars want to work with and for stars, and they don't tolerate subpar performers taking up space, which I thought was such a profound statement. Tell us about that. And you also linked that into the cockroach effect.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's, I always try to be on the positive, on the front foot, identify the stars and let's recognize them and reward them. And let's provide them with greater opportunities and greater financial rewards. But it's like a stick. When you pick a stick up, you get both ends. You just can't deal with that one end of what I would say the performance bell curve. You do have to deal with the other one because it just is so demotivating. Coach at Notre Dame, Lou Schultz, said, motivating is easy. Get rid of all the people who aren't motivated. And it's true. It's kind of crass, but if people aren't cutting it, it's not fair to them. It's not fair to all the other people that are right for the bus. And people typically don't fire themselves. You know, so you counsel, you train, you develop, and eventually, if you can't change the people, you might have to change the people. And that's a burden of leadership, and that's a discipline. But if you don't have it, you can't enjoy the fruits of rewarding the great people without addressing the things that aren't working right.
Mm-hmm. And I know because most of my listeners are entrepreneurs and personal brands. And I think that it's an important thing to note that also applies to your clients.
Yeah. And it's, you do from time to time identify people that are more trouble than they're worth. Mm-hmm. And we've done it more on a macro basis. We've taken, I remember we've taken certain smaller relationships that take a tremendous amount to service, and it's better for them to just go do something else, And so we try not to, I would say, redline it so much that we're trying to get every nickel in the door. Right. We're trying to do things that make sense, that provide a reasonable margin, because it's not good for us or good for them to be taking more than they're providing. There are other things that they can go and do and be involved with. Mm-hmm. There's a certain level that you have to invest to be involved. In fact, the rule of thumb for us as it relates to sponsors is it's $100,000. If you don't have $100,000 to spend, you probably should go do something else. And that's okay. You'll be happier. We'll be happier. And so you're right. You do have to have great discipline to ensure that your relationships are efficient.
Mm. And since I brought it up, would you tell everybody what the cockroach effect is?
Yeah, that is kind of a Texan thing, isn't it? So when you think about poor performers, it's not what they eat. It's not that they're big. It's what they spoil. They create this buzz around the organization that why aren't they doing anything about it? Because they can't. The vast majority can't do anything about it, and they just assume you as the leader see it. And so you do have to keep your ear to the ground. You do have to identify the challenges, even though it's really causing a problem. Well, it lowers motivation. Everybody wants to know everybody's in it to win it. Mm-hmm. Everybody's being held accountable for their best performance every day. And only the leader can make those decisions to make sure everybody's contributing appropriately.
So what goes into your decision to employ talent?
Well, there's three things that we consider fundamental. We call them the non-negotiables. And it's really easy. They're talents. The good news is they're available to everyone if they choose. Okay. Great work ethic. Got to work hard if you're going to be here. Got to have a winning attitude, positive, optimistic, team-oriented. And number three is you got to be committed to the values of our organization. You got to look at, and we've codified it in being innovative, being memorable, being passionate, being accountable, being courageous, being a team player. You got to look at those things and say, that's what I'm all about. And also we have our three imperatives. We're here to win championships, create memorable experiences, and do great things for Houston. 1, 2, or 3 of those better inspire you. If not, it's not going to work because it's really hard. And in the book, I talk about this concept of PATI, which is the Latin word for passion, Patty. And the definition of Patty is the willingness to suffer and sacrifice for what you hold dear. This is really important to all of us. And so if you're going to walk in the door, you've got to embrace that I am going to have to suffer and sacrifice because this is really important to everyone. It's not going to be sunshine and ponies. It better be important to you. And so we do try very hard on the front end. I think everybody's way too quick to hire and way too slow to fire. We try to be very slow in the hiring process. We also try to very rarely will we bring somebody below the entry level into our organization because we have what's called our draft class. We have, I think it's 12 recent college graduates that have these entry positions for 9 months. Give them a chance. I mean, you can fake an interview. You can't fake it for 9 months. Mm-hmm. You'll know after 9 months whether you have a great work ethic, you have a winning attitude, and whether this really matters to you. And if it does, we're going to work our tails off to try to get you a full-time position. And if we can't, we're going to work to try to get you somewhere else so that you can become one of our boomerangs, right? That you'll come back in a couple of years. And if it's not a good fit, well, 9 months, we'll just all move on.
Mm. So then let me ask this. Is great something you are or something you become?
Well, actually, our standard isn't great. Our standard is elite. That's where we want to be. Got a sign over here. It says, good is to do your job. Great is to focus on always better. Elite is when you have the teamwork going on, that everybody collectively is working together. There's a high degree of trust. You can move fast, but you never have to look to your right or your left or behind you to try to pull a knife out. We're all in it together. We all have the same objectives, and that's how you become elite. I think it's a process. It's a process of being elite, and you're never static. You're either getting better or you're getting worse, and so you do have to employ the get better mentality. It's a performance-based business. Just because we did well last Sunday doesn't mean we're going to win this Sunday. So you got to go back. You got to pay attention to your habits, your success habits, and keep yourself focused. When you think about success is a distraction. Mm. It is a silent assassin. When you think about adversity, that's easy because adversity punches you in the face. Success just seeps in. You start to cut corners. Maybe I don't have to get up so early. Well, maybe we'll take a couple of reps off. Maybe, you just start not doing the things that allowed for your success, and you just have to fight that. And it is much harder to handle success than adversity. We had a coach when we first started with the Texans, a guy by the name of Dom Capers, wonderful man, who said, for every 10 players that can handle adversity, there's only one that can handle success. And I think it's the same ratio in life. So
any tips for handling success?
Yeah, I think there are 4, and I do flesh them out in the book. So if you want to go and buy it, you're going to tell them where later. But
I plan on it.
Yeah, number 1 is you got to stay humble. You can never read your own press clippings, because you're only one mistake away from back to the bottom of the pile. So stay humble and hardworking. Number 2 is you got to stay focused on those success habits, the things that have gotten you to where you are. J.J. Watt, who plays for us, and you may have heard of him, he's number 99, plays defensive end. He says, success is not owned, it's leased, and rent is due every day. You just got to keep at it every day. Number 3, a lot of people achieve success and they do it in an unbalanced way. And that's okay for a short period of time to put everything into work for a short period of time. When I mean that, I mean 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe even 5 years. But over time, in order to sustain success, you do have to have a balance to your life. And I'm in Young Presidents Organization. And one of the tools we use through our forum, which is simple, but has been so valuable, each month we report out on, okay, what's up in your business? What's up with your family? What's up with you personally? And it really causes you to think in those three buckets. And whatever your buckets are, just make sure on a regular basis you're ensuring that there's some balance to your life. You can be out of balance for a while, maybe personally, maybe with your family, maybe with your work, but not over time. And then number three, you just got to keep going. You got to keep setting higher and higher targets for yourself. Challenge yourself. Like for me, writing a book in the middle of running a National Football League team, but I've been doing it for 20 years, right? And so what's my next challenge? And so write a book. And next year it'll be something else that'll keep me challenged, keep me sharp, keep me developing my skills while I continue to lead the organization.
Love it. Last 4 questions for you, Jamey. First one is, what is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Well, it came from my dad. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I say that kind of, I don't think he loved what he did. And I learned from that. And I saw just the way it kind of wore on him. And I was like, I'm going to work hard to find where I fit. What really generates my passion? I'm not going to stop till I get there. And so I found it. My first 5 years, I remember maybe the first 10 years, I didn't wear a watch. I just wanted to remind myself, I don't care what time it is. I'm doing what I love.
What's one thing on your bucket list?
What's interesting? I actually do have a bucket list that I did about 10 years ago. And I pulled it out recently and I was like, wow, I got about 10 of those knocked off and I hadn't even looked at it in a while. But I think my next one's going to be, I've just picked up golf in a pretty serious way. I'd like to go take a golf trip to Scotland and see the origins of golf.
Nice. Okay. When the toy companies get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
Well, of course, number 1 will be my phone, which I can never be without, right? I guess number 2, I've just gotten used to these little rubber bracelets, and I call them, they're habit makers. So if there's something important that I want my team to get drilled into their mind, we'll just have a little, like this one is see something, say something, culture of appreciation. So when you say something, you see something, you're to say something. Someone does something nice to you, say thank you. Somebody does a great job. Hey, I really appreciate how much time you put into it. And when you do it, you snap it. And then if you miss your opportunity, you just move it from one to the other. I tell you, it's magic. After about 30 days, it just becomes part of who you are because it's just people need to be reminded much more than they need to be educated. When I tell you, you should appreciate people, of course, but those magical moments slip by. And if you let them slip by, they're gone forever. You'll never come back to them.
Last one. How do people find you? And I'm actually going to add, and how do people buy the book?
Well, buying the book is easy. Either Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Really easy to get. And finally, it's in full production. It took a while. People were buying, and they was out of stock. But now I think we got plenty. JameyRoots.com, JameyRootes.com. There's all kinds of blog posts. There's some tools to help you implement some of the techniques that are in the book. And over time, we'll flesh that out. So maybe link that. LinkedIn, I'm on often, probably every other day, and probably getting to where I'm going to do it every day. Just a thought that I had, something that's really interesting to me. And if people like the book, I think you'll like some of these little ideas that fly out. And then Facebook. The others, my team does, but Twitter, I'm not going there.
Well, thank you so much. And I do highly encourage everybody to read this book because all of the things that we touched on today, Jamey fleshes out in more detail in his book. And it's also worth noting that the proceeds of it are going to charity.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, Jamey.
It's great being with you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.